Hear these words from Matthew chapter 6. Be careful not to practice your righteousness in front of others to be seen by them. If you do, you will have no reward from your Father in heaven. So, when you give to the needy, do not announce it with trumpets, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and on the streets, to be honored by others. Truly, I tell you, they have received their reward in full. But when you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your giving may be in secret. Then your Father, who sees what is done in secret, will reward you. And when you pray, do not be like the hypocrites, for they love to pray standing in the synagogues and on the street corners to be seen by others. Truly, I tell you, they have received their reward in full. But when you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is unseen. And then your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you. Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth where moths and vermin destroy and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moths and vermin do not destroy and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. The word of the Lord. The word Lent means long spring days. It commemorates the 40 days that Jesus spent in the desert where he was led, or driven, as some translations put it, shortly after his baptism, shortly after his epiphany. In the desert, he was tempted by Satan. We begin a pilgrimage on Ash Wednesday, a journey in which each step we take matches one in a story. It's like falling into a world in which each movement reflects a movement elsewhere. Each step is matched by another in a parallel dance. The geography of Lent begins in the desert. In the crucible of heat and sand, Jesus was trying to figure out, as Frederick Buechner writes, what it meant to be Jesus. In the weeks that follow Ash Wednesday, the gospel readings will recount what Jesus did afterwards. He walked from town to town, sat down at the table with tax collectors and gluttons, talked to women, healed on the Sabbath, used the wrong fork. I wonder what went through Jesus' mind as he lived out what it meant to be the Son of God. It looks somewhat like he was on a journey of discovery, step by step, more about himself as time wore on, as he walked and waited and healed. At the end of Lent on Palm Sunday, we walked with Jesus into Jerusalem, the city where crowds welcomed him on the Sabbath by spreading palm branches under his feet, and where he was executed by the week's end. Lent is a journey towards the cross and towards a tomb and the mysterious, unending joy of those who found that tomb empty. The goal is to bring its geography into the self, to bend beneath it, to allow the soul to find its narrative within it, its unfolding story. On Ash Wednesday, I enter the desert. I become the woman at the well who demands, "Give me some of that water." I am the blind men begging for sight, the sisters of the dying brother, and the lame calling out from alongside of the road, "Jesus, remember me!" As the sweet Taizé song goes, "When you come into your kingdom." In ancient church tradition, on the eve of Easter, the tall white paschal candle lights a darkened church and a deacon sings the light of Christ. Lent is a journey, as a biblical scholar put it, from ashes to fire. The season of Lent is about preparation, and it's about paying attention. We are using the metaphor of a garden this year to awaken our senses to the spiritual truth hidden in this most amazing season. You see before you today plants that speak of the winter, fallen leaves, dead branches, damp soil subject to the rains of the winter months. These plants have withstood the rains and the recent ice, and some of them are longing to rise to new life. Some will simply die and return to the earth to furnish nutrients for the growth of other plants. Whether we look at this journey from a geographical standpoint or in light of the work it takes to get an overgrown garden to come alive, this journey from Ash Wednesday's ashes to Easter's fire is a chance to rewrite our own stories. The essence of healing, perhaps the essence of what we mean by resurrection, is to take the chaotic and traumatic events of our lives and see them transformed into a new story, a new life. But before a new story can be written, the old one needs to be examined. And then comes the question, where is your treasure? Where is your heart? Where are you putting your time and attention? Before we can put our hearts and our treasure in right relationship with each other and in right relationship with God, we have to know where our hearts and our treasure is right now. We have to take time to understand our story, to check out the condition of our garden plot, to see where we really are in the journey. Truth chases us during Lent. And that will most likely mean some pain. It is not easy to face our own darkness, our own ashes. We're all going to come up short, believe me. As a friend once said, when she wanted to take a day off from work, she said, "I'm just going to call in ugly." We're all going to have to call in ugly during Lent. That's why we're doing this together. And we all have to face up to our own fears and weaknesses so as not to keep on pretending that it's all someone else's fault. In Lent, we have to stop and look at the ashes because we are pining for a new story. We are asked to make room for and to enlarge our capacity to suffer. And of course, with it, our capacity for discovering and experiencing joy grows as well. That joy is life from the broken branches and the ashes. Amen.